Is it time? Okay.
Hi guys, good day and happy Saturday. It's another great job. Hi Oliver,
Yeah,
how's it been?
I'm good. I'm good. Hello, Melody. I think this is the first jam for the year. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it is. I'm super excited about it, and we have an interesting topic, so it's scratches with the excitement.
yeah. So today we'll be looking at something nice. But before then, let's just talk a bit. Like,
Yeah,
so Melody, how's it going? How's been work through the week and all that? How you been pushing?
I think I'm nice. I'm nice. Just following the trend, the tech trend around Twitter and all that. Different companies are laying out. So it's crazy out there. Like it's a wildfire out there. But I think generally I'm nice. Now I've been
Okay.
mostly recently bombarded with work myself and doing a whole lot of things. So yeah. How about
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, for me, I think I resumed last week. It was a bit tough because I was like, oh man, I need to extend my holiday because I felt like, all the work, like there were just some piece of tasks that we had left over from the
Mm-hmm.
other year, and we're just bringing it back, and we're just, at some point, some part, I've already forgotten how to like what I did and how to go about that, like go back, and now I'm like, I need more holidays.
Yeah, it's
Anyways,
it's that crazy.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool. It's cool.
Eh,
It's cool.
Yeah,
So
you wake
let's.
up
Yep.
you wake up on Monday, you're like, it's Monday already. I thought it was still Saturday or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I remember then earlier on when I started, like I love coding and all this. When you're like, okay, I could code for
Mhm.
you for free and all that. But now, I mean, I'm like, this stuff is hard. Like, like getting up
Yeah.
do something, you're like, oh man, this is so boring. Especially the part where maybe you're writing unit test or you're like, going through
Hmm.
some, you're asked to put down documentations, those things they can, But anyways, I love them. I've chosen to love them anyways, and we're good.
I mean, there was a time we could code for 24 hours, right?
Yeah,
Non-stop. And you're like
yeah,
super excited, all going and stuff. But right now, if you will run and go rest at any time you have, right?
yeah,
Anytime you have, you use it for rest. It's
yeah.
crazy.
All right.
Okay.
Let's
Let's
see.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
So today we have something very interesting, like said, and we've shared a lot of flyers. So most of you have seen it, and most of you haven't. So if you're seeing this for the first time, we are looking at real-time notification with Novu,
yep,
right? And this is very much an interesting topic because at some point in your software, you want to have some real-time notification, right? Either you're giving out if you're building a fintech or anything of that nature, or just anything at all. It could be an admin needs to be notified when something happens. It could be a security something or whatever it could be, right? You want to
yeah,
emit some real-time notification so that one is able to get information on the fly and make decisions on it.
yeah,
So novel, right? First off, let's understand what it means. What does it mean to be real time, right? Being real time refers to the capability of a system to respond or react to events or inputs instantly as they occur without noticeable delay. So, as someone is clicking a button, if you're on Facebook or Instagram or all that, right? If someone is clicking a button, a like button, you want to see it, instantly. Especially if you're an influencer, you want to see your likes, your like count grow as someone is reacting to them, and if someone is, commenting, you want to see it because all that is real time, right? You could make decisions based off that, and you could, grow your influence and all that. In a real time system, there's an emphasis on minimizing latency. So you don't want that delay. You don't want like your comments and you wait like 100 years later before you like update it, or you don't want this situation whereby one has to go and refresh their page to see reflection of whatever actions have been taken. That would be very, very poor user experience, right? So there is we want to minimize latency between the occurrence of an event and the system's response to that event, right? Okay. Now, what are the use cases of real-time notification, right? What are those various use cases of real-time notification, right? You could use it in team collaboration. For instance, if you want to do pair programming with VS Code or any of that, right? And someone is writing, like I'm typing on your VS Code or some remote server or some remote IDE or something like that. You want to see that update in real time. Right? You don't want me to write all my code, crash it, or something like that. And especially when you're coding with someone, you want them to have an insight to what's happening, right? So that is a very good use case of real-time notification. Voice calls when you're talking to someone, you don't want a situation whereby someone calls you and talks for like 10 years and sends you the message, then you wait for like next 100 years. When you're older, you get the message. Like you want to get everything on the fly, right? Financial transactions. So banks as well. For instance, if something crazy is happening to your bank, if someone makes a transaction, you want to see it. So you could make decisions whether am I the person that really performed this transaction or some other person is messing up with my finances and all that, right? Emergency alerts. Let's say there's an earthquake, right? Uh, there are IoT devices all around, laid around the earth, and you know something happens in a particular place, you want a real-time notification. Probably it could be triggering TV stations to start live broadcast, all the social medias to start live broadcast of that, disaster, natural disaster or something, right? That's a very good use case of real-time notification. So probably aliens, right? If aliens should visit Earth someday, right? You want everyone to know, right, in real time that this is what's happening and this is happening currently, right? And some other places are tax management, right? For instance, if you're using ClickUp, you're using Jira and others, right? What's the name again? Which other tax management do we have? We have Trello and others, right? If I'm
True.
assigning you to a tax, yeah, you want to see it in real time. Probably I could be chilling. You have a developer who is waiting on you on a task, and the PM goes and be like, "Okay, I want to assign this task to a couple of developers. I'm assigning this one to this person." Right? You don't want to get that message like in 5 hours. You probably, if that's a very high priority task, you want to get that message instantly so you could act upon it and all that, right? Especially in a distributed system where people work distributively, right? So those are use cases of real-time notifications. Those are use cases where you want to use some real-time notification. So let's talk about Novu. If you go to the Novu website, you'll see, let's see, Novu is an open source notification infrastructure for developers, right? It's an open source, so it means it's an open source. Everyone can use it, right? And it's very developer friendly, right? And this is an illustration that signifies what Novu tries to do, right? So you could configure your Novu to be in this sequence, right? Let's say you have an application you built, right? There's an app in your device, and you want to emit events to that app, right? Let's say user creates an account or something like that. Admin needs to know that someone has registered. Now, if admin is offline or their phone is dead, or let's say admin is not in app currently, or something like that nature, or admin is offline for some whatever reason, probably admin is like, okay, I need to limit my screen time on my phone, so I'll be using more of my laptops because it's more focused, so I could do more work stuff and over social media and all that, right? You configure it in such a way that if user is offline, okay, go ahead and notify this person via email or whatever other message. But if user is online on that app, go ahead and through that notification via the app. So this is one way you could configure the Novo to respond and leverage the Novo infrastructure. So let's look at the Novo architecture, right? First off, before we look at that, right, see Novo processing information from your product directly through the Novo workflow and dismiss notification across in-apps and external channels. So if you look up here, these red ones are the inputs, right? It could be message could be coming from an SDK, an API, right, or some component or whatever it could be. And this message moves down to Novu, right, which is the Novo infrastructure, right? And if you look up here, you see that these blue ones are the process engines, right? It goes to the notification engine or stuff like that. The notification engine decides what can I do with this. Should I go ahead and filter this based on the parameters? Should I schedule this? Should there be a delay or whatever other processing is required, right? Now, if there's any processing required in that, that could be queued up, right? And later, that gets managed by the management system here, by the workflows and all that. However, now you can see that this is the workflow, the Novo workflow, and this expands this whole concept, right? The Novo workflow here. So the workflow manages the entire infrastructure. What should be done on this, right? Should I send this to the notification, for queue? Should I send this notification to have a delay of 1 second or thereabouts? Should there be a filter and all that? And whatever that decision is, right? Now it gets processed there, and after which that notification goes to various notifications. And this notification could be a feed, which could be a news feed, could be an email, an SMS, a chat, or an in-app. Just to reiterate on this, right? You have your inputs, you send information via your input, your SDK or whatever. It goes to Novo processing or management engine, right? The management engine has a lot of things, and it has different workflows and templates and all that that does the management. And that message is being queued up or is being, dispatched immediately, depending on whatever actions needs to be acted on that very message, right? And after which that notification reaches the person or the subscriber of that message, and that person could be you or the person you're sending it to. So you see the feed, the email, SMS, and all that. And one cool thing about Novo is that you could always configure it and decide that, okay, today I want to use it as an SMS, right? Because these things are abstractions for you. Today I want to just plug in email, right? Today, you know what? Let me use it for some in-app notification, right? All those abstractions are there for you, right? You could just configure on the fly and those happen for you, right? Uh, so, Kelechi, what do you think about before we move on, what do you think about this architecture?
Yeah, I think it's cool. We're going to go into the coding section where we'll get to try to add some piece of code to explain this better. But I think it's cool. It's all about more about scalability, right? So when you build an app, maybe initially you have few users, but as users increase, notification is one part that could lead to issues, right? So when you have a lot of thousands of notifications coming out and you're finding out these notifications, right? So you want manufacturers to have skills, and something like Novo can handle that. I think when you get to the enterprise level, we get to pay for at least those infrastructure, but at least the Novo architecture itself can be self-hosted depending on your use case and all that. So it's cool. We'll get to look at this properly during the coding section.
All right, cool. So we look at still on the Novo architecture. You see, Novo's object communication layer (OCL) is a structured framework that separates communication tasks into specialized components, right? Similar to microservices. So these are, there's this separation of concern, and these components have specific rules like message passing and data management. By doing so, OCLs enhance system maintenance and scalability, making it easier to integrate new functionalities, right? So, the Novo architecture inherits, this microservice kind of scenario where you have different separation of concern and different instances having managing different components and all that, right? And that helps to improve scalability and enhance the message system, right? And the entire queue system is very reliable as well. So what are those concepts you look at when in Novo that may likely confuse you, or those things you're going to likely encounter when we get to the code section. Let's look at this. So we clear those, and when we get to writing code, there are no questions, right? One of them is notification. So a notification conveys information from a source to recipient, triggered by a workflow, acting as a message blueprint. So notification is that thing you send, you know, through a workflow that gets to a subscriber. A notification is the actual message you send. The notification, sorry, notification is the information you send, right? Uh, that gets triggered via workflow, and that can be confusing to a message. So message contains the information about the request that triggers its delivery on a particular channel. However, notification is like more like the information itself, right? From the source to the recipient, and we have the workflow. The workflow is consider the workflow as a container that has the logic of what should happen, right? Where should this message go? What are the components of this message? So a message could be, let's say, a message is like a JSON, or that has a whole lot of things. That has schedule this for 6 minutes and all that and stuff like that. Or there could be a bunch of messages coming in via your app, and the system could be down, right? The workflow decides, okay, what should happen? Should I queue this up and all that? I think the workflow, you could consider it as the, the reasoning of the entire infrastructure and system. We'll have the subscriber. The subscriber in Novu represents someone who should receive a message. So when you get subscribed to a message topic, you receive messages relating to that topic, right? And a topic is a group. Well, topics are ways to group subscribers together so that they can get notified events, right? So the same way you have in Kafka topics. If you subscribe to topics, right? For instance, you will have different layers of your application or your services subscribing to one topic. So you could have, okay, I have this infrastructure and I have a sidebar. The sidebar cares about the user because it displays the user information, probably the username, right? The top bar cares about the user because it displays the user profile, right? And the application itself, or probably the message section or the content section, doesn't care about the user. It doesn't use the user information directly. There's this widget that doesn't care about the user. There could be something else that cares about the user information, right? Now, if there is an on-user change topic, right, the sidebar, which is subscribed to the user on change topic, would get notified that, well, this user information has changed. Here's the new thing. Probably you should update yourself. The top bar will get notified. These other things that are not subscribed to this topic wouldn't get bothered, right? And that's how you keep this separation of concern. A channel novel represents a configured provider such as SendGrid for email to send notification and others. So channel is the means via which that message gets notified. So look at things like SendGrid, you look at things like what's this WhatsApp thing you could use to get connections to WhatsApp. Just any other channel works, and this is the concepts. These are the concepts that may get that you need to understand before we head into writing code. And with that said, let's get into writing code, right?
Yep, I think Melody has done justice to everything I need to explain. So right now we'll just jump into the code. Just give me, let me just try to organize my screen a bit, and
Okay.
I'll just share my screen.
All right.
So, yep, can you see my screen?
Your
Yep.
screen is loading. Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay, cool. So before we jump right in, would like to I would like to explain what we're doing. Let me just get this. Just give me a second. Just a quick explanation on breakdown so we understand what we'll be doing before even starting. Okay, so here I have like a drawing board. First of all, we're trying to build, we're trying to demo the use of Novo by building a simple contact form. So when a user submits a contact, like leave a message and their email, we'll get to send them a notification that we've received that contact. We'll send them both email and in-app notification. All right, so just a simple one. So we have here like a contact form. I'm wondering why my text is not showing.
I think it is. It's just not very visible. You could check, try another color, different color. Yep.
I think it's okay. So I think it's zoomed out so much. So we have here
Yeah, it needs
contact.
to zoom in actually. I
Okay, I
think it
need to
needs to
zoom in.
zoom in. That's for, yeah.
Your contact. So the contact is just a form. So by the way, we're going to be using next year's. All right. So we have a contact form here. Users get to input their information and then submit. Also, so when that form gets submitted, we have an API endpoint here. We make a request to our backend. In Next.js, you can have your backend as well configured on the same project. So we have the backend piece of code here. All right. So that's an
By
API request.
Next.js, we are
Yeah.
referring to the backend, the front end framework, right?
No. Next.js, that's the framework, the front end framework that also allows you to add endpoints, API endpoints to.
Yeah,
That's
that's
NEXT.
the next. Yeah, the one that supports React and React components, server side rendering, and all that, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
we're just going to have another component here. We have the backend where we make API calls to, and then we have right here. I'm just going to. Stuff is way big. I'm going to bring this down a bit. I think my screen is way big. Okay, so right
Okay.
here we have Novu. I'll use this thing to represent Novu platform. Okay, so the backend talks to Novu to trigger a notification, right? So it's simple. We're
Okay.
making a request to the backend. The backend has some API keys it uses to talk to Novu. Keys plus requests payload. All right, so we talk to Novo. On Novo's side, we'll just do a simple thing. We'll create a workflow. As Melody has said, workflow contains series of logic on how to what the trigger should be, how the trigger should, which notification channel we're using, how we configure the email templates and all that. Right. So we'll have a workflow here, and it's going to be a very straightforward one. We'll have a simple trigger there, and the trigger things, first of all, an email to whatever email we found in the contacts that was sent to the backend, right? So email and put this down here. Then also need to have an in-app. So we're doing two notifications in-app just to demo the fact that you can use different notification different notification channels or providers, right? So once the email is complete, it will go ahead, the flow will go ahead and send an in-app notification. All right. So that's like the basic structure. You can think of this as the workflow. Um, this is the workflow, Novo workflow. Okay, so with this, at least we have a basic understanding of what we're doing or what we're set to achieve. All right, and also we've got a repository, and I'm just going to paste that. Uh, okay, so this is the repository that has the starter project we can use.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just paste that here. Okay, so if you open this, you just switch to the starter branch. Starter branch has the initial piece of code we'll be using, and on my terminal, I have here the starter branch already running. So I'm just going to open my code editor. All right. So before we even write any piece of code, let's go over to Novo and add some configuration. All right. So Novo needs you to before you interact with Novo, you need to configure your workflows. You need to add which provider should send email, add configure how your in-app notification should work. Right. So here I already have Novo opened. This is the screen you get once you create an account on Novo and all that. So you get to maybe you ask you to configure provider and all that. But the best thing to do is just to go over to workflows and create a new workflow. All right. So you can click here to add a workflow. It could be a blank workflow or use like an existing template. All right. So here I have a workflow already created, but it's still the same process of clicking blank and then going through the process. In fact, I will just create a new workflow. And okay, so let me just for a second, I would delete this one. Yeah, and I'll go over here and just click on blank workflow. So this is my workflow trigger. Workflow trigger is mostly going to be done through the SDK. So from our backend, we'll use the Novo npm package to call Novo endpoints with our API keys and would trigger this workflow. All right. So the next thing I need to do, I need to drag in some, right, what should happen when the trigger gets called. So the first thing I want is an email. All right, so here I have an email here. So for us to use the email, we need to also set some things. So you just click on that item, that's item there, and you set the sender's name, who is sending the email. For the purpose of this demo, I'll use CodeJam as the sender's name, and the subject will be the subject of the email will be contact received. So message received rather, contact message received. All right. So then I'll make use of the default layouts, the layout of the email, and then I'll add some content. Right. If you're doing this for an organization that has a logo, you could upload the brand logo, could customize the content as much as you want. You have the custom code here if you want to write custom code. So I'll just add some content here. I would say hi. And it's very flexible. I can add templates, literals, and passing variables, right? So I can say hi and I can say first name, right? I think I'm supposed to use two curly braces, right? So you can see it here that it's already highlighting that step variable. That this making a call to create this trigger, I can pass in this variable and it to be replaced in the template, right? So I can say hi. Let me just remove the comma here. First name, and I'll say we received your message. We're sending this to inform you that we would get back shortly. All right. So this is the message we want to send. Whenever somebody leaves a contact information, like leaves a message for us, we want to trigger this notification to them. Right. So I'll select that, and also at the top here, I would click on stop if field. The need for this is to actually stop the workflow from proceeding to the next part. We don't want to send in-app notification whenever the workflow for sending email fails for some reason. All right. So that's why I'm turning on this toggle, clicking on this toggle button. All right, so we have that. We have our variable down here, and we've added some contents to our email. The next thing to do is to click on update. All right, once you click on update, that's done. But if you're doing, mind you, if you're doing this for the first time, all right, they will ask you to add a provider. All right, add a provider. A provider could be whatever channel you want to use, like who should handle the sending of that email. Some companies, they're already using something like SendGrid, they're already using something like MailChimp, or they're already using something like some other tool that maybe AWS SNS to send notification and all that. So you could configure that, right? I think once you go through integration store, right, you can see that here for this development environment, I'm using the default Novo emails to send emails, right? But depending on your use case, you might choose to use some other provider like SNS, Amazon SNS, or you might choose to use SendGrid and any other email provider. Right? This applies to not just the emails, but also some other things like maybe in-app push, something like that. Yeah, you can choose whatever provider you want. This makes your work or whatever you're doing more flexible. I'm looking for the contacts. Okay, yeah. So back to the workflow. I'll just title this workflow now. Um, Contact, contacts us, right? And then I'll update that. And then we need an extra step in the workflow. We've added email. Now let's add in-app notification. You can see in-app here. I'll just click on it and drag it down here. It's as simple as that. And once I drag it down, it's now part of the workflow. I need to configure it by clicking on it. So as I click on it, I would add some information. I would add a very basic thing here. I would say, hello, we received your contact and would get back shortly. All right. So we have our basic message there, and the next thing to do is to just click update. Okay, so we've configured our in-app notification. Now this is very flexible. You can choose to have a message get passed by the app that is sending the message, right? So you can choose to do that. You can choose to make use of some dynamic variables and all that. All right. So yeah, so that's up to you, right? Whatever you want to do in this place, you can configure it. Okay, so like if I do this, I can access some, yeah, I can access the subscriber's email, subscriber's first name, and all that. So it's up to you. And I think you can also add your own variables. Let's say I want to a message from the app. I can name it message, and now you see that down here you can see step variables. Now your custom variable is now inside. Let's say from your app, when you're creating the trigger, you can pass in a message, right? Let's try that. I'll just add a variable here called time, right? This variable will just whenever we're creating this trigger, we'll just pass time inside, and we expect to see the message in the notification in the app we're going to be creating as time. All right, so real quick, let's update this, and yeah, go back to the workflow. This is our workflow. Everything is good. Now we'll have our workflow set up. The next thing to do is to configure our app to trigger this workflow. All right. So as I said before, we have the startup project here. I'll go over to the code. This is VS Code. All right. So the first thing to do is to open up our app. So let me just ensure the app is already running. I can do npm run dev. Or first of all, I need to be on Node version 20, and I can do npm run dev. Right, so this would load up the app. So in here, I can go to localhost. Let's ensure our app is working. Localhost 300 or 3000 rather.
Yeah.
So it's coming up. Yeah, so we have it here.
Mm.
We've got our basic page. All right, so I'm trying to push it forward so that we can catch up with time. All right,
Yeah.
so we've got our basic page here, and now you just have a
Okay.
contact us button that takes you to a contact us page which we've not created. So we click on it, you're likely going to see a 404 not found error. All right, so real quick, we'll just go over here and we'll create a new page to hold the contact screen, and we'll just go with first of all have a folder contact. So this is Next.js, and we're using something called App Router. So you could research about it, how to do navigation with App Router. But essentially, we're trying to create a page at /contact, right? So I'll just have a page here dot tsx. Yeah, so we have a page dot tsx. So next, I'll just paste in some code and just right. So I'll paste in the code and then just explain it. So essentially, what we're doing here is just where I can leave this piece for now. and leave the space. So we're just creating a React component that renders a form. So here we're just creating the normal React components, contact components. We're using the next use router, and we're having using hook to hold the inputs. We're listening for the inputs change events. We're listening for the subscribe submit event. All right. And if on
Yep.
form submit event, we're calling the backend, which is still going to be a file inside our Next.js project. So what Next.js does is when you build your app, it separates the part that has to do with API and the part that has to do with pages, right? So it's as if they are two separate apps in a way, right? It's as if you're calling an endpoint. All right, so we're just calling the contact API endpoints. We're pushing in the inputs, sending it to more like sending it to the backend. Here we're console logging the data that gets returned, and now we're reloading, calling a method, a function reload with sub, and we're setting the subscriber ID as the path parameter. All right, so this is all basic JavaScript and React thing here. So here, what we have is the form fields, couple of form fields and all that, and a button to send the message. So if I save this now, you can always go back to the code and get and all that. So if I save this now and I click on go to contact us, you see that we have a form rendered. We can type in stuff in here, can type in stuff, can type in stuff. All right. So we have the form rendered. The next thing to do is actually to add the in-app notification icon, right? The Novo has made it easy for you to do build in-app because Novo has already created like a component for you to import in your React, your Vue app, or whatever front-end library you're using. Most times, you can just import the Novo component to listen for in-app notification. Right, so that's what we'll do. I'll just create a file here in app notification.csx. In app, is my screen visible enough?
Yeah, it is. But if you, I think you should just zoom in one layer, and that should help.
Okay. Okay, I just created. I will just zoom in a bit. Okay, so I think that's
Okay.
good. Yep. I'll just paste in. So you can get this. This is like a basic React code that just exports a Novo a piece of Novo widgets that shows you in-app notification, right? So how is that done? This is coming from the Novo Notification Center package, all right? We're just making use of that, and you can also find this on the Novo documentation. They've got a lot of stuff for you, a lot of information on how to work with these things. When you go inside UI libraries, right? Inside UI libraries, you can see the one for React and all that, right? So we're just going to save this. All this does is it allows you to check notifications or allows you to listen for in-app notifications. And once I do that, I'm going to uncomment this and I'm going to save. And when I check this, I'll go over to our next app here. We see we have this icon here with a bell, this bell icon, right? This is what we're going to, once we click this, we can see whatever in-app notification that's coming in. All right, so with that done, before we proceed, I would like to make some things clear. So if you're doing this on your own, you need to create an env file. This env file is not pushed to GitHub. So you need to create a .env.local file, and you need to add, by the way, I'm going to be deleting this after now.
Yeah.
So you need to add your next Novo API keys. How do you get that? You go over to your Novo project, you that's your Novo, not the documentation, your Novo project. You go down to settings, and right here you have your API keys. And then another thing you need to put, you can see that I used server underscore Novo API keys. That's because these keys are meant to be secret. They are meant to be stored on the server. And with Next.js, once I use server, it's not exposed to the front end by any means. And then this other one I use public because this one is public. They are meant to be stored on the front end. That's called the Novo app ID. And to get that, it's still at the same place where you have API keys. If you come down, you see application identifier. You copy that and you paste it inside your env. Okay, so that's it for the env. Now we
Yep.
can continue with the rest of the tasks. All right. So the next thing to do is actually to create the actual API endpoints that handles this request slash contact slash API. And to do that with next JS app router, you just need to create a folder inside whatever path you want. So I want this to go to slash contact slash API. So I can create an API folder inside here, and inside it I must create a file called routes.ts. This is framework specific. You cannot create any other files apart from a file named route.ts. Okay, so I'll paste in snippets here containing the logic to do that, and I will just explain. All right, so all the way from the top, where this is all Next.js, this is a type for Next.js response. We're making use of the Novu Node project so that we can. This is the SDK we're using for Node.js, and we have Nano ILE here so that we can uniquely create our subscribers. All right. So this is
Yep.
all normal JavaScript, nothing specific to Novo, just that we're using the Novo SDK. This is TypeScript. We're typing our response and we're typing our content body and all that. All right. And here we're listening for two requests. We're listening for a GET request to slash API and a GET request, a POST request to slash contact slash API. All right. So that's how you do it in Next.js. It could be different in any framework you're using. Maybe it's almost similar in Express. If you're using Express, different in maybe PHP or Laravel. But what's there is that with any other framework, you're likely going to still be using a Novo SDK and you're going to be making a call to an endpoint. Okay, so on this file, we have a sample GET request that just tells us that the endpoint is active. Right. So before I proceed with the rest of the code, I'll just open up my Postman so that we can test this. So on Postman, I've already gone ahead and created an API and test there. So you can see that here we're just making a call to our localhost 300 slash contact slash API. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and send this request. And now we see that we're getting a response success service is running. This is coming directly
Yep.
from this file here, right? You can see if we change this to add multiple dots and save and go to testing point and send the request again, we get the dots telling you that this is coming from the routes.ts file. All right.
Yep.
So moving forward, we have the post request, which is what our contact form is sending, where our contact form is sending the payload entered by the user, right? So we have
Yep.
it there, and we have a constant there that holds the ID to the workflow we want to trigger, right? So this is very specific to how you configure your workflow, what name you used. So I'll go over to our workflow and I'll make sure I copy the name of the workflow we created just now. So I'll copy this, which is on contact us, and I'll go over down here and I'll replace this with that name. I'll save that. All right. So here, basically, we're just having a post request coming in. We're trying to get the body here, and we got the body. And now we're making use of we're instantiating a new Novo instance. We're passing in the Novo server API keys to allow us access to call our own Novo platform or to send message to our Novo account. And then
Yep.
we're also creating a subscriber. So whenever somebody submits the form, we create a subscriber. Remember during the description or during the slide explanation, Melody mentioned that a subscriber is someone who could receive a message. So for us to send an in-app notification or send an email, we need to create a subscriber. Right. So that's what this first request is doing. We're saying we're creating a subscriber with the email that is coming in. Next, we're trying to destructure the payload that when you create a subscriber, you get a subscriber's ID, right? And that's what we're trying to, what we're using to do the trigger next. All right. So here we have novo.trigger. This is where we're triggering this workflow based on the workflow here, workflow name here, right? We're triggering that, we're creating a trigger to a given subscriber and we're passing in the email and we're passing in some payload. Now, the payload you're passing in is based on whatever dynamic variables your workflow depends on. And in this case, because I created this just now, it has changed, right? Compared to what I had before when I was testing this. So I'll just click on get snippets. You see that we have an example code here telling us how to do it. So we see Novo.trigger. We're seeing this. We need to pass the subscriber ID. We need to pass the email, and then the payload needs to be two things, which is first name. Remember when we created the email templates, we said we were needing a dynamic variable that should be passed in using during the trigger. All right. So we're going to pass
Mm,
that in, and we're going to also pass in the time. Right. So I'll just
mm,
copy this. We'll just go over to where we're calling the trigger, and I'll paste that, format this a bit, and I would pass in the first name. I'm just going to say this is going to be the payload dot name for simplicity, and then time. I'm just going to do new date dot. Oh, sorry, the comma here. New date dot so ISO string, right?
yeah.
So this will return a time string. Um, so that's it. So we're just doing the trigger here, and then we're returning a response back to wherever this whoever is calling this API endpoint. All right. So before we even test it from our front end, let's just test it from the endpoint. So I'll click on the create contact endpoint here. You see this endpoint is going toward to slash contact slash API. All right. So we need to
Mm,
put in some body right here. I'm just going to get an email we'll be using for testing. So I'll go over to Gorilla Mail. So they provide like a dummy mail you can use for testing if you don't want to flood your personal email. So I'll just copy that mail, this mail here. So whenever a new mail comes, we'll see it down here. So I'll just copy it. This is still the same thing with whatever email platform you're using. If you're using Gmail, still the same thing. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that, click that, and paste it here. Oh, don't know what's happening.
I think you didn't copy it.
I'll just
You
select
checked
it.
the box, but you didn't copy it. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to paste that. Okay, so I'm pasting that. I pasted that, and I will say, hello, I would like to do project with you. Right, so that's the contact we're making, and I think we need to also provide first name, right?
Yep.
Is it name or first name?
I think it's a name. Then we are the detail we're passing is first name. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just John Doe. All right, so after that, I'll just click on send. And you see here, success through contact created, we get the subscriber's ID. And now let's verify that we actually created a subscriber. We can do this from the Novo dashboard just by
Mm-hmm.
going to the Novo, and we'll go over to the subscribers tab here. And when we search through, you see that we're going to be seeing a new subscriber. So I feel like maybe I should refresh. But essentially, you see the subscriber email down here. So I think it's this one.
Yeah, the one down. Yep.
Yeah. So we have our subscriber down here, and our subscriber has already received the message. Let's check based on our trigger. And right here, we can see there is a message here, contact message received, which was the title we used. And when we open it, we see that here, hi John Doe, which is the name we used. We received your message. We're sending this to inform you that we'll get back shortly. So our message was received. And now for us to check our in-app notification, let's also test this from the front end. All right. So I'll just refresh this. And now I will put in some name. I can see Melody here. So
Why? Why do you have my name, Chief?
okay.
That's so-
I would say Mark Jonah something, and I'll put in an email. So I feel like using a different email. Let me see if I can refresh this and get a new email. Can I scramble this? Okay, yeah, I can. I just got a new email. I wonder if it works. Let's just go back. Okay, this was the first one. Let's see the second one would still come here. So I'll just copy the new email I got here, and I'll paste it on the form. And I'll put in a message. I love your platform, and I would like would I would like to contribute. All right, so this is my message, and I'm just going to hit send message. All right, so I've sent the message. How do I know? Because here, whenever you send a message, you are appending a subscriber's ID to it. And now we've got a notification because why we see a red dot here on the bell, right? This is our in-app
Mm-hmm.
notification. And when I go to my mail on Gorilla, we see a new mail here, right? And now we see hi Mark Jonah, which was the name I used in the form. And we can see the message coming in here, which was what we provided in the template when we created the email step in the workflow. All right. And also in our app here, let's check our in-app notification. If we click there, we see that we've got a notification here saying hello, received contact, and would get back shortly. Right? You can click through to like view more information about it. All right.
Yeah.
You see how seamless and easy this was because of Novo has already done the groundwork for you to like simply build notifications and all that. So that's it. If you'd like to look at the complete project, you could just go to the GitHub repository, change the main branch. You get to see the complete project. You get to modify it the way you want. All right. So I think that's it. Melody, can you think of any question that might come up from this, or would you like to ask any question?
I think we're pretty thorough with the explanation. So, frankly, I can't think of anything. But if any of our audience has any question, they could shoot at us. We'll be giving 5 minutes for questions, and yeah, we're answering all your questions. So, if you
Yeah, they
have
can
any
just
question, you can shoot at us. Yeah.
add it to the chat. So just add. We'll just reply and all that. So I tried. I need some
You need a
compliments.
smoothie.
I tried to keep.
Yeah, you need try to
Yeah,
keep the time, right?
and
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, I needed to keep the time. But I believe anybody watching this would be able to figure out how to go. First of all, you know that you have
Yeah.
Noble documentation. The documentation is really, really friendly, users friendly. Like it was so easy to get through the documentation, as well as the sample project we did. You can use that to bootstrap your own project.
Yeah, and you see, it's very easy to use technology that are already fleshed out for you. There's no need try to build out your own email platform or email provider, and do some crazy things, right?
Yeah,
You have something that works for you. Tomorrow you can decide to do some other notification and just bring in your plugin and configure it, and it works for that very notification. So different
yeah,
case scenarios, you have different things working for you. You decide that, you know what, I don't need to work with the email no more, right? You just go there, go to your workflow, remove
yeah,
it, and you still have your in-app notification working for you. Your email works, and of course there are options where you have like Kelechi said, you can configure your workflow to be in such a way that if your email is failed, you don't want to trigger the in-app notification. There are use cases for that, right? There are other cases where you want to only trigger the in-app notification when email fails, right? So if this fails,
yeah.
go ahead and trigger it. Yeah, so definitely cool. You could write whatever you want. You could do whatever you want. So this is a very good one and a very nice demo from Kelechi. And thanks, Kelechi, for keeping to time, right? So,
Thank you so much.
yeah. So, guys, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us, feel that we are actually contributing to people who love our contents and all. Like our videos, don't just watch them, like them. I see a lot of persons like watching videos and like don't like them. That's the bad, that's the wrong way, right? Go ahead and like, subscribe, and definitely you'll get notifications when we are going live next time. And until next time, we'll see
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Take care. Have a nice one.